Welcome to The Recovering Perfectionist, where you'll learn all the hacks you need to get started and finished on your business or project. You'll connect with successful entrepreneurs who are in perfectionist rehab, unapologetically experimenting and balancing life, business, family, and me time. I'm your host and Chief Recovering Perfectionist, Claire Barton. Hey, it's Claire at The Recovering Perfectionist. Thanks for joining me today. I've got Elizabeth Campbell, who is the Word Stylist, on the show with me today, and she is a journalist and a blogger and a business owner and a speaker and an author and 1,000 different things. And she's a very, very awesome person and someone who I completely love to follow and absolutely love spending time with. She is going to share with us a heap of tips and tricks on blogging and how to get started or start making your blog work harder for you in terms of recycling it, and how to get a bit of structure and that sort of thing if you're just getting started as well, and how it forms part of your sales funnel. So have a listen. I'd love to know your thoughts. It's very practical listening, and Liz also runs workshops online and in person. So have a stalk. Check her out. I'm sure you'll love it just as much as I do. Okay, see ya. Hey everyone, it's Claire here, and I've got Elizabeth Campbell, who is the Word Stylist, with me on the show today. How are you going, Liz?
I'm so well, thank you. Thank you for having me, Claire.
So great to have you on. So, Liz, you and I have known each other only for a few months, and the first time I think I came across you was at one of your amazing meetup networking events back in probably October or November in 2016. And I've come to a couple of events since then, and we've done a couple of other bits and pieces, including a workshop with Francesca Moy and Natasha Denman a couple of weeks ago that was absolutely amazing. And Liz, I've heard bits and pieces of your story, and I really love your style. I love your storytelling, and I'm definitely interested in sharing with our audience today a little bit about your processes and all of that sort of thing. But before we get stuck into that, maybe you can tell us a bit about who you are and what you do, a bit about your business and your background, and all of that to get started.
Sure. Oh, there's nothing I love more than talking about my love of writing. I call it my one true love. So my background is as a journalist, and I was a journo for about 13 years before I left and was in my business full time, but altogether 16 years. So I'm not a practicing journo anymore, but now I have an online content writing agency where we write websites, blogs, and social content for small style conscious businesses. And I also teach people how to write and how to blog. And that's my favorite thing in the world. I just love it. I couldn't think of anything more that I'd rather be doing than either talking about blogging and writing or teaching it or doing my own writing.
Doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it so much. So about, it was three years ago, I think now, maybe going into the fourth year. Must be about to go into 4 years ago. I had a nervous breakdown and pretty much had to leave the media. So it's a long-term career in the media is quite taxing on your mental health and also on your body, like with the stress and everything that comes with being a journo. Like you're deadline driven, you've got multiple daily deadlines. And there's also all of that horrible news that you're always surrounded with. And I loved it, and I always wanted to be a journo ever since I was 14 was when I was first published. And from then on, that's all I ever wanted to do. But once I'd been in it for so long, it just took its toll. And I just got up and walked out one day, and without flicking the bird, I pretty much had a Jerry Maguire moment and just had to go. Like I just couldn't be there any longer. It was just doing my head in, literally. Yeah. So I took a week off just to sort out what I was going to do. And then I never went back then. Like I took the week of stress leave. I took all my holidays. I took all my sick pay. I did sick leave. I did everything I possibly could to get that month's notice that I had to give, so I never had to go back. And in that time, I'd already started my business on the side, but it was like maybe giving me about $500 a month. It was nothing crazy. I had a couple of little clients. I just called it my shoe money or my holiday money, because like I could buy beautiful sparkly shoes with that money. It was just extra cash, I had a full-time job and I didn't need it. But then I realized, okay, this was actually a really cool little niche that I'd found that not a lot of other journalists in particular were doing, but not really a lot of, like, there weren't any other online content writing agencies around. And I still don't think that there are. They're more marketing and PR, but we're different because we only do websites, blogs, and then I only do social for the people that we've done websites and blogs for, because I still love that writing side of it. And so then I just basically threw myself into that, and I was fully booked within the first 3 months. And then the next 3 months after that was all repeat business or referral business. So I found this cool little sweet spot, you know, that nobody really was doing. And I only employ journalists, so we know how to tell a story and write a story that gets read. So the website content and blogs and all of that's all story based and journalistically written. So that's what I get to do. And then 12 months ago, I decided that I was sick of doing that. And, you know, I'd got that business going and the team and everything was doing well. And I really wanted to run workshops. And so, as you mentioned before, I met Francesca Moy and she helped me do that. And it's just gone ballistic. I found another cool little niche that, like, people just want to, either they want to know how to do it so that if they get a content writer on board, they're aware of how it all works, or they want to do it for themselves. And so now I've got these two really cool, still little niche businesses that are just going nuts. And I'm loving it. Like, we moved, I know, I'm at home today, but I've moved into an office at Queensland Tennis Centre, and we got kicked out because the Davis Cup is on this weekend. Yeah, this weekend I think it is. And so that's the only condition of our, Francesca and I are both there, of our tenancy agreement, is that if there's an international superstar match on where all the hot, like, amazing tennis players and their wives and girlfriends are going to be, we have to ship out. So, which is awesome, because, like, I get to now just be at home or
feel at home.
I was at the library yesterday. I just love it. Like, I just look around me and I just see what I'm able to do, and I remember how I felt when I left the media, and it wasn't a nice feeling at all. And now I look at how I feel today and I just feel amazing.
Oh, it's such a big difference, isn't it? I said to my husband the other day, one thing I love about working from home or from, you know, wherever I'm working at the time is usually I really only have to look good from here up. Like, I'm sitting here literally in my trackies and a pair of daggy old socks, but I've done my makeup and my hair and I'm wearing an okay t-shirt, so nothing else really matters. And for people who are listening just to the audio version, it really doesn't matter what I'm wearing, but it's just such a nice lifestyle thing, you know. And, you know, I've got 2 little kids, so if they're around, like, I don't get a great deal of work done, but it's not that stress of having to kind of call in sick and, you know, explain that sort of story again. So yeah, totally get that. So absolutely, the lifestyle, and even though, like, this is amazing.
I was senior journalist and editor and whatever there, and, like, I pretty much got to do what I wanted anyway, but it was still, like, you still had to go in. There was no flexibility. You know, all I wanted, and all that would have made it life so much easier for me, was to have a day off, like a day to work at home. That's all I wanted. I wanted to work 5 days still. Well, it was around the clock. But I just wanted a day to work at home so that I could go and do my grocery shopping. Like, seriously, that's all I wanted. I just wanted to be able to go for 1 hour, do my grocery shopping on, like, a Monday or whatever, and then get back into work. So now I get to design my own life. It's awesome.
Yeah. Up you, corporate.
Yeah.
So, Liz, I obviously talk a lot about strategy and content strategy and social media strategy and all of that sort of thing. But where there's a bit of, I guess, that overlap is that you actually teach people how to write and how to style a blog. And I mean, blogs probably, I don't know, maybe when you started in journalism, that blogs weren't really a thing. Like, it was all kind of copy for printed magazines, newspapers, all that sort of thing. So I'd love to know a little bit about kind of where blogging's at now, because I know probably a year or 2 ago, I remember hearing a lot of chatter like blogs are dead, no one's blogging anymore, it's all about video, it's all about short, snippety social media stuff and video blogs or vlogs, whatever you call them. So I'd love to kind of, like, understand a little bit from you about and podcasting, obviously, but to understand a bit about the sort of the lay of the land and where blogging sits these days and where all that kind of copy kind of sits, especially from, you know, from the point of view of someone who's either just starting out in business, or maybe they're in more of an established business but they're making some changes. Like, what sort of content actually works in businesses these days?
Yeah, well, I say blogging, right, because I'm a writer and I love that. But what I teach, the principles goes across any sort of content. So I've had video people say that the processes that I teach will work for them. It works for podcasters as well. You're right. Back about sort of 12 months, 2 years ago, people were saying that blogging was on the out and it wasn't popular anymore and no one was going to read it and the internet was going to be full of videos and no words at all. And I kind of like, it scared me a little bit. And then I just thought, don't be ridiculous. Like, they said the same thing about newspapers and magazines. And while there's been a decline, they're still around. I just saw a dude walking like he went into the shop today to buy a paper. Like, they're still there. It's not going to happen overnight. And then the other thing that I started to think about was, well, we still learn by reading. So we learn from the video and the visual, we learn from the audio, and we learn from reading. So it's not going anywhere. And Google or search engines still require that we have written content on our websites, as well as like, and it's a holistic approach. So I just don't do blogging. I do social media. I still do media, traditional media stuff. I do videos. I do lives. I do all of that. Like, a podcast has been something that I've wanted to do for a while as well, but it's sort of on the back burner a little bit as I get these workshops happening, like the speaking, all of it. It's a holistic approach, but I believe that blogging is important, especially if you're starting out, because you have your website, you have your blog on your website, and then you promote out to social media and other streams, which comes back to the website, so we can get people into our funnels through a downloadable, which is often it's a written word, like it's a 5 steps on or a how to or something like that, or a newsletter, which is still a written thing, you know. So
and I think there's definitely a thing around something that's tangible, whether it's an actual printed book or printed paper or something like that, or if it's just like something that you can read that's got a bit of extra weight. And I guess there's kind of, I guess there's two things, and partly what you've just said, that there's a little bit of that kind of return to the written word, where, you know, 5 years ago all the rage was having an ebook, like Kindles and that sort of thing, but now everyone's kind of ditched them and they're going back to actually having books, because it's a tactile thing. Like, it's a really nice thing to be able to read, and we want our kids to be able to read and to appreciate books and not just have to get everything from a computer screen and that sort of thing. So I think that, you know, is definitely a thing. But I've also noticed a bit of a trend in written words, like blogs and that sort of thing, that the blogs aren't necessarily just information for the sake of information. They're kind of, like you said, they form part of a funnel. They're kind of that content rich or information and messaging rich medium to teach their people, to teach potential clients, or, you know, people who are interested in whatever you have to teach about your beliefs and your processes and your thought systems and all of that sort of thing, as well as whatever your craft is. And there is, like you said, it's often got a call to action, or it's often some sort of promotional, whether it's like 5% promotion or 100% promotion on a thing. So you often get a freebie out of it, or you learn something. It's not just kind of like information to read about someone else's opinion on something. It's
and
a learning.
We don't really like opinion. I always like talk about, you have a blogging formula, and you should blog weekly, right? That's when you'll get the best results from your readers, because they'll get to know you more quickly, and they'll get to, pretty much what we want to do is form a connection and a relationship with our words, our wow words, I call them, so that people fall in love with us and they want to keep coming back. They want to get our newsletters. They want to follow us on social media for all of the other wow words that we put out there, right? But it's sort of, you have to have a formula in being able to do that. Otherwise, it's too time consuming. So I always say, like, with the opinion piece, just do one a month. Like, we don't need to be shoving our opinions down people's throats, like, you know, left, right, and centre. That people get really put out by that. They don't like it. So I always say, like, in week 1, do a how-to. Week 2, make it a tips list, because they're the 2 most read blogs and most clicked on. Week 3, make it a client question, because people, if we're answering people's questions already, we seem to be really helpful, and they go, oh, I really like that chick because she's pretty much answering the question that I didn't even verbalize. It's just been in my brain. Yeah. And then like make one an opinion. But you really do, like you were saying before with the strategy, like you have to have a strategy. Like you can't just sit down and write a blog and just go, oh yeah, well there's nothing behind it. Like there has to be a goal and a meaning to each piece, and that has to fall into your overarching marketing strategy. So mine, if I can share mine with you, it was when I started this workshop business, I really didn't think anybody would come. I didn't think anybody would want to know about blogging or how to write or anything like that, and how wrong I was. So I've since taught nearly over 200 people now in that year. What I did was, because it was new, I just needed to get bums on seats. Like I had, as I said, no idea that anyone would want to do it. So that was my goal. Always, every time I sat down to write a piece of content, it was to somehow get someone to book from that blog into my workshop. And then the call to action then was always, if you want to know more about blogging or writing or these 5 steps or whatever, come to my workshop. Here's the link to book. So it always fits into your marketing strategy, whether that's like, it's always to increase sales. One was to increase bums on seats. It might be to increase your database. It might just be to raise your profile. It might be to get more leads. It might be to get more 15-minute consults. Like whatever it is, that's the goal every single time. Might be to grow your Facebook group.
I've heard of I guess it's a philosophy, and there's a book around it. I have not read the book, but I've heard of this book called Don't Make Me Think, and it's exactly about that sort of thing. So it's like, making it really easy for people to follow the steps to get to work with you and to get served by you, because that's what it's about. It's not, it's not about getting bums on seats for the sake of making money. Of course, that's part of your strategy, because that's why we're in business. But it's also like, if you want to know more, because this is really useful information, this is how you need to do, this is the next thing that you need to do. So I think that's really interesting.
Always. Like a blog will help raise your profile. It will help get more leads, and it will help boost your business in a monetary sense. I guarantee that. I have no doubt. But the number one aim of any piece of content that we put out is to always help people. If it's helpful, then we can build a connection and trust really quickly, and then they'll like us. And that whole know, like, and trust thing, I like to just say, fall in love with us. They will really like us. They'll understand us. We'll be talking to our ideal target market. I call them my business bestie. We'll be talking to our business besties, and then we ask at the bottom of our blog in the call to action, we're like, okay, we've given you all this information now. Can I ask something of you? Please read this last sentence, and if you'd like to come or download or click here or buy here or whatever. So it's always about helping people first and foremost.
Absolutely. So Liz, I hear people going, yeah, that's all well and good for you to sit down and write a blog a week, but I'm not a writer. You're a journalist. You know how to do it. It's easy for you, all of that sort of thing. So have you got some processes or tips or tricks or things to sort of help people get started if they've never written a blog before, or if it's been haphazard, sporadic, and not helpful and not really strategic? Like, how do people kind of get over that? I don't want to call myself a blogger, or I'm not a writer, or how do people kind of get started?
It is a big issue. Like people's confidence in putting their words out there. Like they don't want to get any negative feedback, or they don't want to be seen as, they might say something wrong, or no one's going to agree with me. And I did the same thing. Like it did take me a little while, and I just put out one here and there. But it doesn't work. You have to be weekly. And the way that you do that is to come up with your little plan. And it doesn't have to be anything crazy. Just come up with your formula, right? Like I said before, our 4 weeks, we had to say, and you guys can do whatever you like. You might do a story, you might do a pros and cons, you might do whatever. But I just, when I'm teaching people, say how to, week 1, week 2, numbered list, week 3, client question, and week 4, an opinion piece, or you might do a promo piece, or you might do the story, right? So then every month you know exactly what you're doing. So then you can start to put some topics in place. So in month 1, just say, I'll just go back to January because it's easy. January is goal setting. Everyone talks about goal setting. How does goal setting or planning fit into your business, or it doesn't fit into your business? Maybe you don't do goal setting or whatever, right? Then February, month of love. So how can you fit love and the word love, or relationships, or connection, or something like that, right? It doesn't have to be about Valentine's Day as such, but it can just be the theme. So then how are you then going to fit in, to say, we'll go back to goal setting, a how-to on goal setting, a tips list on goal setting or planning, a client question that you might get asked around it. I get asked all the time about how do I fit in everything into my day, and I have a structured day. I do this, and this. Otherwise, I can't do it all. So I would write a blog about that, right? Because people would find that helpful. And then, you might have an opinion on goal setting, because actually at the start of this year, there was a lot of traction with a couple of articles around how goal setting was kind of dead, I suppose, like blogging used to be. So then you've got your topics, right? So you know exactly what you're going to do. Then I always suggest actually blocking out. So I block out a whole day for the month, right? You would only just say, and you only want to give it 1 hour per blog and try and get that down. And you time yourself, and you'll get really good at it. You'll have a little competition with yourself. So you just block out half the day once a month on the first Monday of the month, and write all your blogs, do the pictures, schedule them, and be done with it, right? Or if you can't do that on a monthly basis, then do it on a weekly basis, and just schedule your 9 till 10 every Monday. You write your little blog, and that's it. Like you're going to go and get your pictures in your little plan. Have a think about what cool pictures you like, and you just write it all down. Just use a spreadsheet, put your topic in, put your how-to and your little headline and your picture image and whatever else. It doesn't have to be anything elaborate, right? So already you've got your little plan. You've scheduled some time for it. You're going to time yourself so that you get quicker at it, and then you're just going to do it. And you're going to put these beautiful words out there, and you're going to wow the heck out of people, because somebody out there, not just one, but a whole bunch of people want to read your content, right? And they will be your lovely business besties who will fall in love with you. You won't get the sort of feedback, the negative feedback that you think you're going to get. It just kind of doesn't happen. Like, it just, the whole time that I've been a journalist, I've got a few bits of hate mail and stuff like that, but that was like, I'm out there, you guys aren't journalists, so you're not going to get that. And then with a few blogs I've had in the whole, I think it's been 6 years that I've had the business from part-time to full-time, I've had 2 annoying trolls, and that's it, and they eventually go away. So
you've got them because you've got a profile, and it means
exactly
for those 2 people who've said something negative, how many thousands of people have loved it and had a positive thing. It's almost like a sign of
always,
you've kind of made it once you've got a hater, because that there's enough people out there who actually are taking the time to respond to you to say that was crap and I hated it. You're like, woohoo!
And let's all try and get a couple of haters, because then we know that we're successful. Even last night I put out a live video. I did a talk last night on how to get leads from your blogs, and someone put some little angry face, and I'm like, really? You put an angry face? That's so weird. Block, delete, see ya.
Bye, Felicia. All of that is absolutely speaking my language. So I teach, something quite similar in terms of a content strategy and batching and that sort of thing, whether you batch it for a month or for a quarter, or even if you plan things out a bit longer term, if you've got launches and promotions and that sort of thing going throughout the year as well. So, but I really like that, having a bit of a system. And I think some other tips that I like to teach and show people is things like, if part of your marketing strategy or part of your networking strategy is to use or to be active in places like Facebook groups, think about the things when someone asks a question and someone else tags you and says, Claire will know the answer to that. You go in there and you answer it. That's your blog. That's the basis for your blog post, because there's obviously a market that someone has asked the question, someone else has referred you. that, like, write that down. And, you know, I've got a bit of a system. I actually asked a question in a group yesterday, and there's been about, I don't know, 30 responses or so. Like, I've asked a question, I've had about 30 responses with their pain points, and I've gone and replied to all of them. So I've actually just sent that link to my VA to turn that into a bit of an outline about problem, answer, problem, answer, problem, answer. And I'm going to style that into a blog post. Like, I've already got probably 500 words there, and it's specific to, like, people have told me exactly what the problem is, and I've told them exactly how to fix it. Like, you know, and I'm all about upcycling my content and that sort of thing. So that's a lot of what I teach as well. But I really love that system about, you know, especially when you're getting started, it does feel a bit overwhelming. It does feel a bit scary because, you know, you hear this word blog, and I think back in the day when blogging first started, it was all like mummy bloggers or how to do makeup tutorials or something like that. Yeah. Now it's actually a valid starting point for people to get to understand who you are, what you do, what you process, and to differentiate yourself from other people. Like, there's people who do what I do and probably what you do as well. But here, for people to be able to hear your voice and hear how you teach and your passion for it and your certain interest points and that sort of thing has to happen somehow. And if you're doing that sort of upcycling where you're doing written blogs, video blogs, you're pushing it onto your social media, you've maybe done a podcast or you've been interviewed by someone, and it kind of all starts to form, you know, all of the guts of your message and that sort of thing. So I think it's a really important thing to just get started.
And the more you put out, like the more content that you put out, or that I call it restyling, so repurposing, upcycling. I call it restyling because a whole word stylist thing. Yeah. But like, the more that you put out, the more clear you will be on your message.
Totally.
And so you get really clear on the message that you want to give people, then you can just start talking about. And then that's when, like, you might decide, okay, cool, I want to do some speaking now, or I want to have a podcast now, or I want
a book
channel, write a book. I love how blogs are so easy. That was the other thing I wanted to say. Like, they're so easy, right? As in, you can write one pretty quickly and you can edit them easily. So once you put it up there, it's not like video or podcast. Like, you have to like go back and edit it, you know, or get somebody to edit it for you if there's something that's not quite right. Or with a blog, you can just go into the back end and just go, oh, there's that little thing, I'll fix that up, or I can add this bit to it, or whatever. So they're pretty easy they're easy content to produce or to create, and also to repurpose or restyle or upcycle. And I love that, because one of my blogs I wrote for my website, I restyled it to a guest post, so it went out to a whole bigger audience. And then I turned it into a speaking gig that I use to funnel into my workshops. So this blog now has made me, God knows, I don't even know. I have to talk to my accountant about how much money it's actually. I should find that out specifically, because it's tens of thousands of dollars off one blog.
Yeah. So that and so tell me, with regards to that, like, I know there's a couple of businesses out there. Everyone knows, like Tara Gentile and gosh, I'm trying to think of everyone's names, like Amy Porterfield and you know, all those sort of people who, if you follow them on, like, some of these people I follow on Facebook, and I've got them to come up first in my newsfeed because I want to see what they're all about. And like, every time I log onto Facebook, which is probably more often than I should, but every time I log onto Facebook, there's a thing from them. So maybe once or twice a day, they've got new content up there. But after you've sort of seen it for a couple of months, you know that they're sort of upcycling or restyling some of these things, and some of them literally are just scheduling the same stuff every couple of months. So you just, you know, it's capturing everyone, it's capturing new people and that sort of thing. So in one way, I think that's kind of clever, because social media moves so quickly. Like, a lot of people, I think only 1% of your followers might see a thing you put on Facebook. So in that
on your fan page,
on your fan page. So if you don't have a heap of time, like, you can still have a lot of content kind of showing through your social media. If not, obviously you're not going to be changing it on your blog. But another thing I do, for instance, with my podcast, so for every episode I make 4 different social media shares. So there's like all right, today on the podcast, I'm speaking with Liz Campbell, and it's kind of, you know, it's got the title and it's got the episode number, it's got your face. But then 2 months down the track, I've got a different hook, like a different sentence. Have you started blogging yet? And it'll lead back to this podcast. And then in 4 months' time, a different image with a different title that leads back to the same one. And then the same thing at 6 months. So it's kind of doing both things. It's recycling the same content, but it's also hooking, like maybe it's like attracting different people because it uses slightly different language, or it's asking a different question, or it's pinpointing a different part. So I think you can get really clever with that. So you don't have to, you know, after you've been doing it for a while, if you're producing something weekly like a blog or a podcast, you can actually be, you know, after 6 months of doing that, you've actually got something like 20 pieces of content a week if you're being really smart about how you're scheduling it and recycling that sort of stuff.
And then those 20 blogs or pieces of content, you can go and restyle those and get another 20 that's new content, right? So you just have to change. So the search engines say 20%, but I say to people, change 50%. So, you know, if I was going to write a blog about the 5 steps to writing a blog that sells or something like that, right? So you keep those 5 steps and then you cut and paste them into a new story or a new document, and then you just add a story to it. So it might be, you know, like it could be a case study, it could be something that's happened to you, it could be like some new research that you've found, or just like I said before, that one blog post that got me tens of thousands of dollars, like I could add that story and then here's how to write a blog and then come to my workshop. So those 20 blogs that you've already written, they can form the base of so many other pieces of content, but you can then restyle them. So you don't have to write another 20. You just need to tweak another 20. Do another 20 weeks worth of content, which is basically the year done and dusted.
It's crazy. And then some people also putting those things together to create ebooks or actual books, or, you know, the first little bit, the first couple of chapters of a book, or, you know, like I said, into podcast, social media.
Yeah, my book, it started as 50% blog content that I'd already written. And then I sent it to the editor and she said, you need another 50% more. It's not enough here. I'm like, okay, cool. So I wrote another 50%, which formed the rest of the book. Then I used that new 50% as blogs. So
amazing.
I'd written the book and then I had another, probably another 6 months. I haven't used them all yet because I, you know, have my own formula and tweak and write stuff. And do you know what I started doing, which is really weird because I'm a writer and I just love to sit down to write, is to actually record them and have them transcribed.
Yeah.
And you've got to, there's a little tiny bit of work you need to do in your head, just to, okay, what am I going to talk about? What's going to be my angle? And then each step, just say you're doing 5 steps or whatever. I did one the other day and it worked out really well. It was why I still crew for other people. So people will say to me, oh, why are you crewing for, Liz? Isn't that beneath you? I'm like, no. I learn so much when I crew from others. So I'm like, okay, what are my 5 things that I still get out of crewing for other events? And so I did this little thing as I'm doing my walking the other day, sent it off to rev.com. It's $1 a minute and done. Sent to my VA and she posted.
Yeah.
So cool.
So cool. I really love that. Yeah, I love, and I think, you know, yes, you love writing, but sometimes it just hits you. I recently got a little, I don't know, $15 thing from eBay that sticks on my car windscreen so that I can record videos while I'm driving, because I always talk to myself while I'm driving. I always talk, I'm having conversations with people and I do it out loud, and I think it's okay because people just assume that I'm on the phone or something, but I talk out loud and I'm like, and then I'll get somewhere and think, I'll write that down, and I never write it down, and I've kind of lost that train of thought and that inspirational little, you know, thing that I was on. So I've started actually recording them as I'm driving, and I'll either record it as a Facebook Live if it's a little, you know, chat or a bit of information or education or a show and tell sort of thing. But sometimes I've done those sorts of things, and then, same as you, sent it to my VA to transcribe, turn it into a blog or turn it into something. Or it's just amazing. And then I've got a video, and yes, I'm, you know, at my steering wheel. It doesn't look fantastic, but that's part of my brand. You know, I do it when I can in between the 4 billion things that are kind of going on. And I've got a written blog, and it's just an awesome way of doing things. And, you know, like we said at the beginning, people get to hear your voice through the
Yeah.
written words. So there's words that you and I both use, or the words that you use that are unique to your brand, and there's words that I use that are unique to my, well, not even unique to my brand, but representative
Just that are you.
that are me. And if you take them out of the written word, you know, you kind of lose that. So I think it's a really cool way of doing it. It's really clever.
Yeah. And just on that, like, you always want to be yourself. So if you use words like, oh my God, or, you know, if you say it, OMG, or awesome, or amazing, or incredible, or whatever, like these words are, right? That people, when you're having a conversation with, they know you for it. That has to be in your blog. It's just like, if you're doing a video, it has to be the same style, the same you, the same authenticity. I don't really like that word either, but it has to be the same. But otherwise, people won't fall in love with you because you'll be different.
That's it.
And we
hate
that.
Website. It's the same with website copy. I've had this awesome conversation with someone who she's a branding expert. So she's in marketing, but she specifically deals with branding, and she's absolutely fantastic. And she talked a lot about, she came to one of my networking events, actually. She was a presenter, and she talked a lot about if your website doesn't match when people speak to you in person. So say someone goes onto your website and it's really flash and it's amazing and the copy is beautiful and it's very elegant and all of that sort of thing, and you get on and you're a little bit rough and you know, really relaxed, people are like, oh, hang on, like it's not, there's not a problem with how you are and there's not a problem with how your website is, but there's a disconnect. It doesn't match, and so it just doesn't build that trust factor.
True.
And same the other way around. Like if you've got a really shabby website and there's nothing on there, or the words don't match and it's all kind of all over the place and there's different fonts and whatever, but then people talk to you and you're very articulate and you're very specific and, you know, all that sort of thing. It's, again, it's like neither of them are necessarily a bad thing, but when they're together, it's just a disconnect and it doesn't build that sort of trust. So you've got to reflect. You've got to be yourself, and there's no, you know, I mean, there's different levels of how you kind of show up with your personality in your business. I totally get that. There's some businesses where people are very removed from being the personal face of their business, and there's some people like you and I who are our business. Like we're the face of the business, and people have.
I love being my business.
We talk absolutely, and that's definitely a thing. So my next question, there's a lot of talk, I guess, in a lot of the circles that I move in at the moment around having people like yourself who do copy for you, and how to kind of help those people to get into your voice, or help those people to kind of encapture all of the stuff that how you would speak. So any tips for people who are looking to start outsourcing some writing?
I have the best tips about this because I've done this myself. So you must, if you're going to outsource, because you pretty much you outsource because you get too busy, right? And you want to be able to go and be either the face of your business or to get more business in. That's why we do that. Otherwise, we probably still try and do everything ourselves. So what I did was I told my VA, my social media manager, who's now my marketing manager pretty much, she had to go away and look at every single piece of content that I put out there. My blog, my website, my emails that I sent her, my videos. She had to be on my webinars. She had to, have a look at the sticky tickets for my workshops, like all of that, right? She had social media on my business page, across all my platforms, in my groups. She had to pretty much become me. So she had to find what I call the wow words, and she had to find my wow words. She had to discover them. She had to put them into a document, of which I call a lexicon, which is a vocabulary, a style guide pretty much. And so that she could then, so I use, oh my God, a lot. I use awesome and amazing, say, right? So she has to use those words so that it sounds like me.
Like you're
so if you have a look, and if you have a look now at pretty much all my social media accounts, I don't do at all, except my personal Facebook. In my groups, I don't do those unless I get in there and just, put something in that's random. All my promotion stuff is done by other people, but I still write some of the copy. So she does my newsletter, all of that. So she'll send it through and it sounds like me, but I just need to add a bit of stuff in there, and then I send it back to her. So she makes another note of what I've. So she knows when I get it's so crazy. When I get my newsletter through, she's been stalking me so much that she's like, oh, it's been like such a great, amazing month. I've been here, 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 and here. And I'm like, oh my God, that's so true. I have been here, here, and here. So you basically, my best advice is to have your social media manager or your marketing manager or whatever it is, your VA, stalk you. They have to sign up to everything that you do, so that they can become you, because there is nothing worse than a disconnect. And you can see it. Like you could see in one person that I had, you could see when she got on and then when I got on, and they just weren't the same. And it's like, nah, this is not right. Like I need to now teach them to be a mini Liz. So you need to talk them and teach them how to be a mini you.
Yes, awesome. And there's lots of different layers about that. And I also was talking a lot about outsourcing recently, and you've just got to find the right person who gets you and who has some alignment, whatever sort of feels good. And some people will find like an extension of their right hand, and some people will find someone who's actually their left hand but does all the stuff that they don't want to do, and everything in between. So you've kind of just got to have a bit of a play around with that. And
that's true. That's a good way of looking at it. I hadn't really thought about that. I think most of my team are an extension of my right hand of me. Like pretty much, I want them because I am my brand. But then I have got other people that are like, I just hate doing admin stuff. I just hate it. So now I've got somebody that's doing that, and then I've got an assistant starting tomorrow, actually. So exciting. She's going to look after my inbox and just getting that stuff out, because it scares me. It's so crazy in there. But it's good.
Love it. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Liz. I think that's been really insightful and really interesting. You and I have obviously got a lot of overlap in terms of what we do and how we do it, and having some systems and tools and structure, I think, is probably what it comes down to for anyone who's starting or wanting to get a bit more consistent and wanting to really use blogging and content as part of their funnel, and have those calls to action and that sort of thing. So absolutely brilliant. Love your style. Of course I do, because you're the word stylist. That's totally so Liz, we'll put all the links in show notes, obviously, but how can people easiest or best get in touch with you or follow you and learn more about you and what you do?
Absolutely. They can just go to my website. It's pretty easy, elizabethcampbell.com.au. And if you just Google Elizabeth Campbell, I pretty much am on the first page. I've overtaken the opera singer. And I think there's
famous online.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. I'm actually, the other Claire Barton is also an opera singer. I couldn't get clairebarton.com because she's a New Zealand classical and opera singer.
Mine too. I couldn't get the .com for Elizabeth Campbell either. So I got the .com.au.
Bloody opera singers taking over the world, these girls.
But we just need to keep blogging, and then we overtake them, you see.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for having me, Claire. I really have had a piece of fun. As I said before, I love talking about this stuff.
Excellent. And we love hearing about it. So thanks so much for coming on the show. All right, we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Thanks, Claire. See you later.
And that is absolutely it, my lovely. So I hope you've really enjoyed the episode. It was great fun recording that one, as it is with all of them. If you'd like to connect, I'd love to stay in touch with you. I have a beautiful Facebook group community at bit.ly/The Recovering Perfectionist Crew, with all capital T, R, P and C. I have a massive goal this year to get 50,000 downloads on my podcast, and I've got a YouTube show as well. So I'd love for you to help me out if you can by either subscribing to the podcast on iTunes. So if you want to go over and do that now, that would be awesome. If you have a couple of favourite episodes, or if there's one favourite episode that you've really enjoyed, I would love you to share that with anyone who you think would get as much out of it as you have as well. And while you're in iTunes, if you can jump in and give it a review, that would be amazing. iTunes definitely helps out podcasts that have got some good ratings and reviews and some really interactive listeners. So I would really appreciate your help with getting to my goal of 50,000 in 2017. The show is also available over on YouTube. The links are always in the show notes, so you can head over there. So it's The Recovering Perfectionist on YouTube. There's a channel for that as well. So jump in and leave your comments. You can watch all of the episodes in video. So if you want to see what we look like and our crazy hand gestures and facial expressions and all of that sort of thing, absolutely jump in. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel show as well, and then you'll be kept up to date when there's some new episodes that come in there. So yeah, love your support. And if you want to shoot me an email, it's hello@claire.campbell clairebarton.com.au. Always happy to receive your emails and open up a conversation. All right, big love. I'll chat with you soon. Bye.